I'm going to make a squiggly wire bracelet. I'm starting by making a loop on the end. Now I'm going to make some, well, what do you call it? Loops, but not full loops. So I'm just making like curves, like squiggly curves. I'm using a wooden dowel, about 4 millimeters thickness of the wooden dowel. I don't have my wire cut yet. I'm just trying to see how much wire I will need. So I'm going to snip enough wire to make the front part of the bracelet. But if you snip too much wire, you can just make the bracelet go all the way around. If you snip not enough, you can just make it go over the front and then have another piece of the bracelet on the back side. After I make the little squiggly loops of the bracelet, I'm going to tighten them, push them closer together, the little loops. See how they're kind of spread apart? And it doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. It's perfectly imperfect. That's the art of creation. If you mess up, you can make it into something else. I'm just smushing the links. Well, not the links, but the loops. I'm smushing those loops together. Because when I hammer it out, it's going to push those loops further apart. So I'm trying to get them close together using my round nose pliers. Hammer, 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 but don't hammer your fingers. I'm trying to avoid the end loops because I don't want them coming apart. Because like I said, when you hammer it, it makes the metal spread out. I'm using stainless steel 18 gauge, but I really like to work with 16 gauge when I make these types of bracelets. And I have used aluminum before to make these, but I wouldn't use any plated metal. It will mess up when you hammer it. I'm hammering both sides. If you wanted to, you could use the round part of your hammer to hammer texture into it. Hammer, hammer, hammer. Don't hammer your fingers or thumb. Hammer, hammer. I'm holding the bench block because if I hammer on the table, it'll shake the camera. So we've made a squiggledy bracelet. You can hammer as much or as little as you like. So it's not big enough to go all the way around to make a cuff bracelet, but it is large enough to be the front part of a bracelet. You can do whatever you want to make the back part of the bracelet, but I'm going to make another piece just like the top part. I use hardware pliers, not pliers. I use hardware cutters, wire cutters. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a loop at the end of the wire before I start making the squiggles. The first time I used a wooden dowel to make the squiggle loops. The second time I'm using just my round nose pliers. I think it's easier for me to use the round nose pliers. It's easier for me to hold it to form it. There's other tools you can use, but I don't have those tools. I have the minimum required tools to make jewelry. Just the basics. I have my pliers, my hammer, my bench block, my wire cutters, a metal file, and a ring mandrel. Those are the only tools I have. But I can still make quite a bit of things with just those few tools. As a matter of fact, when I was little, my 3rd grade teacher told me I could make something out of nothing. I just rummaged through my dad's garage and found stuff to make collages with and to create things with. So you can be creative and not have much to work with and still find a way to create. Now the ziggly lines are not completely perfect. They're irregular, but that's okay. It still looks cute. This one we're doing now is the back part of the bracelet. If you did a big enough piece of wire to begin with, you could have made the entire squiggly bracelet a cuff bracelet that went all the way around. But I'm making 2 separate pieces to connect together to form a bracelet. Don't hammer your thumb. Now I'm just going to curve it a little bit around my wrist. Just kind of shape it. If you don't have a mandrel, like a bracelet mandrel, you can just kind of squish it around to make it the shape you want. Now, what I'm going to do is connect the 2 pieces with a jump ring and then make a clasp. I got out my jump rings. I'm going to add a jump ring to one of the loops on the end of one of the pieces of bracelet and then connect it to the other piece of bracelet and close the jump ring. I would really use chain nose pliers to close this, but I didn't have them on hand at the moment. So sometimes I even just use my fingers. But I'm just using my round nose pliers. Attach a jump ring to the other end because we're going to add a clasp And we need a jump ring to put the clasp through to connect it. I'm going to make a loop and squish it down, kind of make a flat loop. Now I'm going to bend the wire to make like a fish hook type shape. Oops, I had too much wire, so I trimmed off some excess. I made a fish hook type shape. Now I'm going to make a loop on the end. And then just kind of make the shape of the fish hook as wide as you want it, or as narrow as you want the hook to be. I wanted to make mine a little more rounded out. There's my little clasp. See? Little clasp. There, you can see it better. Now I'm just going to hammer it out just to straighten it out, not to make it really flat. Just to make it lay down. Since it got bent out of shape a little bit. Now I'm going to connect the clasp I just made with a little jump ring. And there you have a bracelet, a Squiggley bracelet.